everyone, and welcome back to our take on cruise with Shannon and Roger, or
Roger and Shannon. My name's Roger Blum with Cruise and Port Advisors, and as always, I am with
Shannon McKee of Access Cruise, and we're so happy to be back. And Roger, I know we were just talking about, this is one of those episodes that we actually talked a lot about before we started filming.
That's right.
We did a lot of research.
While we walked over here to this absolutely gorgeous BanyanTree,
Yes.
which is really very typical of South Florida and Miami.
Yes.
But this is what the research was. Most of you who live in Miami know that Miami has been known, you probably don't know, since 1924 as the Magic City. But
Why?
because it's magical.
Okay.
But you're thinking, well, okay, this is cool, but this is our take on cruise, not our take on Miami. But there is another magic city. Shanghai is also known as the Magic City,
Really?
which I just learned about. And you're probably thinking, okay, well,
Again,
why? Because Adora Cruises, which is the joint venture between China Shipbuilding and Carnival Corporation, their ship is finally, the first giant ship, passenger ship being built in China, is getting ready for delivery in Shanghai, and it has been named the Adora Magic City because it's going to home port in Shanghai.
the Magic City.
And the ship, as most of you probably know, is based on the Carnival Vista class platform, so it's a big ship. And I think it's kind of cool that, you know, Carnival Corporation home port is here in the Magic City. The ship will be sailing from the Magic City, and it's exciting. Also, cruising from China.
Well, Royal Caribbean announced they're going back in 2024.
That's right. The
Yeah.
Spectrum of the Seas is going back to China, and the Chinese cruise market is finally reopening. I actually spent a lot of time working on the Chinese cruise market.
You did, because you have a client in China, right?
I have a client, one of the leading manning agents for Chinese crew is based there. I've been to China a few times. I've done different cruises out of Tianjin and Shanghai on Chinese ships to really better understand the Chinese consumer.
Wow.
And cruising in China will come back. I know there was a lot of talk that by this point, China would be the largest source market for cruising. Obviously,
Not yet.
Obviously, COVID put a wrench in that, as well as the stoppage of Chinese tourism to Korea. But
Yeah.
they'll be back.
You know what? I've been to China. We went in with Norwegian Cruise Line. We were going to be doing some different programs with Norwegian back in 2000, and I went and spent about a month over in China, in Shanghai, and Beijing, and Xi'an. I loved it over there.
It's incredible.
It was an incredible place, so I'm super excited that they're going to be coming back. We were working with Star Cruises at that point in time when Star took over Norwegian, so some history there too, not as much as you.
You're sounding very ancient.
I
I had to say it first.
am starting to sound a little ancient. But moving on from there, you know, there's been a lot of big changes again in the cruise industry. We always talk about this. The one thing that will always stay the same is there will be change in the cruise industry. And when it comes to ports and destinations and itinerary planning, this is more shifts, because we see that Robert de Bruin has moved over to Holland America Line, and Crystal Morgan has moved over to Seabourn. So the question will be, who takes the big role over at Princess Cruises?
Are you going to prognosticate?
Am I going to prognosticate? I think. No, I better not.
Whoa, Shannon has not prognosticated.
No, I do have an idea of who it's going to be. Somebody that's been there for a very long time, and I think she'll eventually, see, there's a hint right there, she'll eventually take that role that Crystal left open. But we also saw something happen over at Ritz-Carlton. Ritz-Carlton, Doug Prothero has left. We see the CFO rise into the president's position, which is Ernesto Ferro. And then we see the CEO position being taken over by someone from the board named Jim Murin. So lots more changes, right?
Yeah, and
and Mark Conroy.
Well, Ritz-Carlton, they've got their new generation of ships coming out. The first ship
Yeah.
finally is sailing. I'm hearing great things about it, but they're moving ahead.
Yeah.
And
And Silversea, right? Mark Conroy is stepping away from the general managing director position
For
here
North
in the US
America.
for North America. So he's stepping away from that. So again, so many shifts. But you had another topic that you were going to reminisce from your ancient days.
You had I knew you were going to do it. So it just kind of caught my eye. Of course, the Port of Galveston has been booming, absolutely booming. We know all the publicity about the new Royal Caribbean terminal that looks absolutely fantastic. Carnival is going to be home porting 4 ships there. Royal Caribbean, of course, is going there big time.
My home state.
That's right. That's a horned frog. But there's so much happening. But I did reminisce because many years ago, a little over 20 years ago, when Carnival was considering going into the Texas market, I went over there to take a look at Houston, where your company had a ship home ported.
Norwegian was out of Houston, that's right.
So I looked at the port of Houston, the cruise port at Houston, and then I went down to Galveston, which had no ships. And they had a cotton warehouse there that had a very small portion that they had cut away to use for embarkation for a gambling day cruise ship, which was no longer there. And I said, wait a second, Galveston is the place to go. So I entered into an agreement with Galveston Wharves.
Talk about prognostication.
I entered into an agreement with Galveston Wharves. We developed part of that cotton warehouse into what became the first cruise terminal. That kept expanding, and now Galveston Wharves, or the Port of Galveston, is investing $53 million into the same structure to get it ready for Carnival Jubilee. So it all started there, and I'm really excited for them.
That's an incredible story, and I love that you were there in the beginning.
I was there.
In the very beginning.
In the ancient days. But that's only 20-something years ago. So the Port of Galveston has grown quickly. But it's been great. Lots of stuff happening. Exciting stuff between China, executive changes, Galveston, every place.
You know, and the other thing that I keep seeing when I was reading the trades is just that cruising is back. And in some cases, people are starting to share the news that they are back to 2019 levels. And some even sharing that they're over and above and beyond 2019 levels. And that's what I like to see, because that right there tells us cruising is back.
Okay, that's something we've been prognosticating about all along. So that one we were right on.
We were right. Exactly. Hey.
And you were going to say hello to somebody.
I was?
Nick.
Oh, that's right. Captain Nick. You know, it's so funny. We were at our favorite little Callisto Cafe, Greek Cafe. And who else do I see there but Captain Nick? So Captain Nick, can you guess where we are today? We'll see you next week.
By the way, Captain Nick is Captain Nicholas Antalis from Royal Caribbean, port captain, and a great guy, phenomenal mariner, and a great person.
We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.